Hi guys, welcome back to another Mid-Tier Thoughts video. Today we're going to be answering another question today, and that is it possible to get a decent 2 or 3 gun arsenal for around the $500 to $600 mark in today's market? Obviously, as we all know, prices on everything has gone up across the board. Times are kind of tough. It is currently late July of 2024. We all know that prices are skyrocketing on everything. So is it still possible to be able to get affordable firearms, like let's say a 2 or 3 gun arsenal and under that dollar amount? I'm going to say yes, but you do get what you pay for, and there are some limitations. So I'm going to show you a couple different options to where if you are kind of hurting for cash, where you can get in and kind of where your priorities should be. So let's say our budget, let's put it at $600, because I've tried to do this with $500 and it is really, really hard to do. So we're going to go for 6, kind of see how we fit in there. So starting off, the first gun I think you should get would be a pistol. So with that, I think kind of in that ballpark, my best recommendation would be, take out that empty mag, a Glock 17 Gen 3 or other police trade-in pistol. Generally the Gen 3s, this is a police trade-in Gen 3. I picked it up at the time for around $300. That's pretty common. A lot of places between that $300 to $350 mark for being able to pick up one of these. They generally come with 2 magazines, sometimes 3 already. If there's police trade-ins, it's usually 2 or 3, hopefully 3. They generally already come with night sights, so you're getting an upgrade there that you're not having to pay for. They are the Glock night sights, which are okay, but could be better. But you are getting night sights with it, so that's a huge plus. So with this, you get 17 rounds in the magazine. You're capable of taking larger mags. You could conceal carry this. It is on the larger side, but I have seen people do it. Even little skinny guys, I'm a bigger dude. It's easier for me to do, but skinny guys can get it done as well. Again, that first recommendation is going to be a pistol. My recommendation is a Glock 17. You could find other options, other police trade-ins, used guns. The Rugers usually come in. There's a lot of good options in their take, or unfortunately, as I don't like to say this as much, the Taurus models, like the G2C. Especially if you're looking on the used market, you can usually find a lot of those when they're around that $300 mark. Again, my best bang for your buck, in my opinion, most reliability is going to be a police trade-in or used Glock 17 Gen 3. Still easy to find a bunch of stuff for these things. Trick them out when you have the money, as well as being able to find magazines, no problem, as well as reliability. You really don't have to worry about it. As far as it goes for reliability, these things are almost impossible to beat. Most of these police trade-ins were shot realistically maybe 50 to 100 rounds a year during qualification practices, things like that. Probably has some holster wear from riding around the holster. If it was used in self-defense shooting, odds are you're probably not getting it at a gun shop for cheap. And if it's your average person who is bringing this in used, it's usually because they're upgrading something else. Again, these things are awesome, rugged, reliable. I've shot the crap out of mine. Probably put more rounds to it than the previous owner since it was a police trade-in. These things are a great way to go. But let's go ahead and round up and say that we're looking around $350 for this. That means that out of our $600 budget, we only have about $250 left. And we're trying to get a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol all in here. So the next thing we're going to look at, in my opinion, is going to be the shotgun. Now, really, with the budget we have left, if we're also trying to get a rifle, it's going to be kind of tight. Used to be back in the day, you could probably pick up some Milsurp rifles in that range all day long, like a Mosin Nagant, something like that. Dirt cheap, all day long, pick them up. But nowadays, Mosin Nagants, SKSs, we're talking cheap ones running for $400 to $500 in most places. I think the cheapest one I've seen anywhere close to recently was $399 for an SKS and was like $389 for a beat to crap Mosin. I mean, prices on these are skyrocketing. So unfortunately, those aren't going to be great options for this. So when it comes to shotguns, I want to leave a little bit more budget for the rifle. So I think a break action shotgun. This one happens to be in 410. I would recommend a 12 gauge because you can get adapters that run smaller calibers in there to run 20 and 12. Something like this, you can usually pick these up, especially at pawn shops or used gun shops, sometimes under $100. You know, I mean, you can get these things pretty cheap. So something like this, or if you're looking for in the right market, if you look for a Maverick 88, something like that, like a used one of those, or unfortunately, I really wouldn't push it towards a Chinese or Turkish shotgun because you want something that works and is reliable. Are they cheap? Yes, but you get what you pay for. So something like this, again, I think in that price point really works out pretty well for you. Get you a little sleeve for some ammo on here. And again, this could work great for you as a good shotgun until you can get something better. And they're easy to use. They're super simple. You can get sleeves for them, like I said, that go in the barrel and shoot other calibers out of them if you need to. If you get a larger caliber like a 12 gauge, that would be my recommendation. They're pretty easy to find. You can sometimes find them with real long barrels. You can cut down to the legal length of 18.5 inches. So that's a potential option as well. But something like this would be a good way to go for that. So let's say on average we find these for about $100 is what I've been seeing. So let's cap that at about $100. So now we're at $450, which means we have $150 left in our budget to try to get 3 guns for $600. So with $150 left, in my opinion, the only rifle you're really going to be able to afford is probably going to be a 22. Now, if you're smart and you do the right kind of looking, you can probably find a Ruger 1022, especially on the used market, for under that $200 mark. You can usually find them for about $200 new, depending on like the base models. But for this guy, this one happens to be a takedown. It's one I've had for a while. I've got a scope on here, a little 1-6. This, for example, if it were just a standard base model, usually go around $200. So finding them in the used market for about $100 to $200 is not hard to do. Now, it is a 22. Does that mean you're going to be, fighting the Russians or they fall from the sky with this? Probably not. Do I want to get shot with a 22? No. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the FUD thing of like, oh, everything with 4 legs has been killed by a 22. Sure, you can kill just about anything with 22 with the right kind of shot placement. I don't want to take my chances on certain things that I'd be shooting at with that, however, though. But this does give you a rifle. This is a means to train. This is a means to shoot. You can shoot small game. You could potentially, in a pinch, use this for self-defense. I would recommend using the shotgun or preferably the EDC, like your pistol as an EDC, over that. But bullet's a bullet. So with that being said, again, we are working with very strong limitations here on our budget. So this is a potential option that does give you a rifle, does get you the ability to start shooting rifles and get practice and get training and do it for fairly affordable. So altogether, that runs us up at about $600. Now that is option 1. I do have 2 other ways in this that we could potentially get to our $600 mark, but we do go from a 3-gun arsenal to a 2-gun arsenal. So if you're willing to give up one or the other, we can move on to the next category. So with that, again, we're going back to our $600 budget. We're going to limit it now to a shotgun and a pistol. So in certain states, this might realistically be all you can get. For a lot of people out there that are just your average gun owner, that's sometimes where it stops, is a shotgun for home defense and a pistol for an EDC or a bedside gun. So with those, we're going to kind of look at that and shift that way to see what you could get. So again, we're going back to the used Glock we're going back to that $350 mark. So we've got this back in play. So we know that we've got $350, which leaves us again with about $250 left for a $600 mark. So with that, I'm going to recommend a good pump action shotgun. So this here again is a Remington 870. This could be this kind of just a placeholder. You can find these used for that price pretty easily. With that being said, too, you could also find sometimes brand new Maverick 88s for that price. It's basically the more budget version of a Mossberg 500. You can find a lot of things like that in that price range, in that category, that could help satisfy that $250 mark. Tons of options out there. You just got to do some looking, especially in the used market. Awesome shotguns can be found for $250, especially in the 12 gauge. Okay, so this brings us to option 3. Option 3, again, we have a $600 budget. We're going to sacrifice the shotgun, and we're going to be able to go into the rifle category with some of the money that we're saving. But again, we're going to try to be a little tight here. So with this, we're not going to necessarily, if we want to spend more money on with what we're going to prioritize, we're probably going to prioritize the rifle over what we're going to prioritize for the pistol with this. So even though we have this budget set at $350, we're probably going to have to lower that. So unfortunately don't have one to show, but we're probably going to go more towards something like a Taurus G2C, maybe a used Taurus or a used Ruger. As much as I hate to say it, the Sky pistols, I really don't like those. But we're going to be looking around, we're going to set our pistol budget, unfortunately, around that $200 mark. You might be able to find some Milsurp stuff right around that price for the pistols. Some 380s you might be able to find in that ballpark. But again, we're talking used market, probably going to the pawn shop or your local gun shop, looking in the used cabinet for things around the $200 mark, because we're going to need about the $400 to get us into a very plain Jane entry-level AR-15. So $400 is about the bare minimum, I would say, that you could probably get into an AR-15 for. With that, you're going to be looking at some of the sales on Palmetto Armory, State Armory, or some of the stuff from Bear Creek Arsenal. I do have a couple things from Bear Creek Arsenal that I am doing some testing on. I have a part 1 video you can check out as well on my channel that'll be linked to this video if you want to check it out, kind of a first shots review. I'm doing a more in-depth review to tell you kind of what to expect out of some of these. Both companies make entry-level rifles for, especially some of their plain Jane kits, for around the $400 or less mark. So it is possible to get into that. Again, though, you are kind of sacrificing on the pistol to get you into a rifle. Now, I will say you do get what you pay for, so they are kind of a no-frills gun. So when we look at the first one here, this is, set this out of the way, this is from Bear Creek Arsenal. Now, I have this A2 buttstock here. I have this A2 buttstock here on this. I have ran the rifle buffer with the carbine length tube and have no problem with that. Sorry. One of the uppers that I have is a M16 20-inch upper. So I built out the A2 lower, and I'm using it for all 3 of them to test on. So we will see how well they perform. So far, so good. This is actually one of Bear Creek Arsenal's side chargers. So this is an AR-15 that side charges like an AK, a little bit different. But the cool thing is these uppers, this and like their standard uppers, these things go for, these things go for under $300. They're, I don't know, like $280 something that I've seen before. You can usually get these uppers, either the side chargers or the standard ones, for about $300. And if you're looking, you can usually find $100 complete lowers on Palmetto during sales, or you can build one out. I'll just wait for the right time to buy the right parts when you need it. Same thing with Palmetto. You can get their uppers for pretty cheap as well. You can usually get their build kits for around $300 mark, $350 mark, and then try to find a, you can get some of their blimmed lowers for about $40, and then it's just a matter of pricing out a parts kit that's affordable. So if you want to go the 2-gun route and have a rifle, you can get the plain Jane basic rifle, no frills, for about, let's call it $400. Without a transfer fee, without anything else like that, and then finding a cheap pistol for around the $200 mark. So again, something like a used Ruger, something like a Taurus G2C, or some of the older generations of those used guns, depending on their condition, you can find a good amount of those, especially in the Ruger category. You could probably find a Ruger EC9, something like that, in that ballpark. So with that, again, you are a little bit more limited when you set that budget at that $600 for 2 guns. Obviously, we could make a $600 1-gun arsenal, but it's not really much of an arsenal, and that's just an average gun purchase. Obviously, you can do really good with a 1 pistol, 1 shotgun, or 1 rifle at that $600 mark. That's not necessarily the intent of this video. I will say that doesn't leave you much either for optics or lights or anything else like that. You're basically going to get iron sights if they come with the gun, and if not, you're going to have to buy those separately and add them on there. So hopefully this gives you a thing to think about. If you guys have other options or other recommendations, I know I didn't really touch on milsurps. Unfortunately, like I said, a lot of them are much higher priced than they used to be. It's hard to find even a Mosin Nagant for under $400. And so at that point, I feel like if you're competing with cheap AR-15s compared to Mosins, it's not really that fair. Again, you have I know the Carcanos are on the market right now for around $200, but when the ammunition is almost like $2.50 a round. It could be a little off on that. I think it's either like $1.60 or $2.60, something like that. It's something crazy for 6.5 Carcano. Doesn't really make it that affordable if you can afford the gun, but not the ammunition. So again, these are just some options, just some ideas to get you guys thinking out there. Affordable guns can still be found in today's market. Just something to think about. Let me know if you like this video, if you want to see more stuff like that. I intend to do a couple more budget videos of arsenals at different dollar points to kind of give you an idea of what is available out there for potentially a 3- and 2-gun arsenal at different price ranges. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any other ideas of things you'd like to see, or if I missed anything, or other options that you think would fit well into this category, maybe some budget finds you found, or current prices at your local pawn shop, things like that. Other than that, check out www.midtierthoughts.com. Check out our awesome merch. Support us on the channel. It always helps out. Like, subscribe. Catch you on the next one.